Hello. I have no subject at all, so it's up to you, guys and gals, to figure it out. Ask me something, say something. Give me news. Right, so what's up? I just set up this Hangout because I'm bored. So please tell me something I should talk about. Or do tell me some news or whatever you like. Today I've been in Finnish, I've been talking about the local Finnish scene, the nationalist scene, and there are all the divides you can think of. It's the same problems as it we have with alt-right and with alt-light. You have that in Finland. You have that in every country, basically. And it is what it is. There are lots of infighting for the same reasons in every country. It's not good, to be honest. It totally isn't good. What can you do? First of all, please comment. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can see me and if you can hear me. Just comment on the chat. Kristo Kirov. Mark Ivach. So you can... I'm good. Okay, very good. Have you been following the fallout between the alt-right and the alt-light? This is what I'm going to talk about if you're not changing the subject. So, in the United States, the alt-right and alt-light were supposed to hold some kind of a free speech demonstration, but it splintered into two different demonstrations, because as soon as Richard Spencer said that he will be a speaker in this freedom of speech rally, people started signing out and leaving and started creating this other demonstration, and they had two parallel demonstrations, one for the alt-right, one for the alt-light. We have done this in Finland before. In the worst situations, we have had basically three different groups having a demonstration at the same time in the same city, basically the same block at the same time. The infighting on the right is insane, and it's the same in every country. It's the same in Finland as it is in the United States, as it is in Germany, as it is in UK, and so on and so on. And the split has been, I think the split has been on its way on the alt-right for a long time. I can remember last year, I think it was last year, on the side of the last year, when the kind of the meme war for Trump started to splinter into alt-light and alt-right, and there was all of these people saying that I disown this and I disown that and so on and so on. So yeah, there was oath keepers. Let's see what people are saying. I think this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare, and at this time I don't have any solution for you, because we have tried all kinds of things in Finland and we're still struggling. And we've been trying to get some kind of alliance together for a couple of years now. But it's a no-go. Maybe the alt-light can have something brought together in Finland. That's how it's looking at this time. I'm not sure if the alt-right is trying to do anything, considering it. Okay, let's see. Zion is saying, punching to the right is the worst thing that can happen. People on the alt-right and alt-right should know that they are just playing into their mutual enemy's hand. Well, Zion, this is very true, but the alt-right doesn't care. They keep on attacking us on the alt-right all the time. They're like basically burning down their own house, and there seems to be very little we can do to stop them from doing this. Kristo Kirov. Yeah, I think it's a little complicated. It was the Oath Keepers who didn't want to protest with Spencer, right? I think it was worse than that with the Oath Keepers. I think the Oath Keepers were even physically fighting some of these alt-righters in some demo. Have you read the Uirala website? No, I haven't, Jason, and I don't know what that is. So please enlighten us and tell us what is the Uirala website. Zion, are they still trying to bring more migrants into Finland, or have they given up? Zion, the situation is that we used to have this party in government that was populist, and the party members voted for a new leader for this populist party who was a nationalist. So this party split in two, and the populists stayed in the government with the center-right and center parties, and the nationalists were basically thrown out of the government. And when they threw the nationalists out of the government, it seems that they have been pushing for more migrancy. Zion, Jason, it would be good if Alaska separates in many Canadian Europeans and Russians would move there. I have no comments on that. I don't know that much about the separatist movements of Alaska. Pretty much all the only things I know about Alaska is that they are giving some part of the money from the oil to all the citizens as some kind of a citizen's income, and that it's cold in Alaska and it's next to Russia. But Jason, if you have something to tell us about Alaska, please help us. Please tell us. We will learn if you tell us. Zion, alt-right people might be controlled opposition or idiots. Zion, they're so afraid, they're so scared. They're scared to be associated with racists and anti-Semites and KKK and what have you. Neo-Nazis and so on and so on. You get the idea. They're scared. And they kind of do these mental gymnastics to get themselves to believe unbelievable shit. To keep telling themselves that they are, on the one hand, they are good people, and on the other hand, they are nationalists. And these mental gymnastics leads to all kinds of crazy stuff. They believe stuff you wouldn't believe, just to be able to keep their head straight with the unbelievable beliefs they have. They are very self-contradictory, the beliefs that the alt-righters have in their heads. Christoph is saying, my perspective is that of an active duty officer in US military intelligence, the Oath Keepers are ex-military civic nationalists. And the ethos of the US military is deliberately very strong civic nationalists. Yeah, of course. Inside, outside, upside, downside. You are wearing a coat. Is it cold in Finland at this time of year? In this is a side building to my house, and there's basically all the heaters are shut off, and it's Yeah, it's cold. It's like, I don't know, maybe 10 Celsius. So if I sit here for a long time without a coat, I will be cold or get cold. That is why the Oath Keepers are not going to break bread with ethno-nationalists. Yeah, they are fucking useless, basically, because what's the use of strong civic nationalism? It's the same as globalism. It's just that it's a little bit. It takes a little bit longer time for the migration to replace the native population. So the point of this civic nationalism is it doesn't have any point to it. It's crazy. It's like saying that if globalism is burning down your house, then civic nationalism is just burning down your house slowly. Jason, the Separatist Party is second biggest party in Alaska. Interesting. Separatist sentiment is also strong in British Columbia, Alberta, and the Northwest Territories and Yukon. Oh, that's interesting. It's good to know. Well, I hope you're the best with your separation. Everyone who is an inch to the right of the center is fair game for cultural Marxist. Shame people can't realize it. Yeah, but it's the shame game. They're playing the shame game. Unlike in the Muslim culture, shame is a very effectively used weapon in the Western culture, which is basically built on the ruins of Christendom. And Christianity uses shame as the main control weapon to control people. So they have weaponized shame, and they are using weaponized shame against us. Inside, outside, upside, downside. Zionism is ruining the world thanks to USA and bastard Israel. Well, yeah, that's one part of the problem for sure. Helias Antonius. The alt-right has gone full cock. Yeah, they pretty much. They're useless. They're nearing the neocons. Krista Kirov, the US military worked very hard to create civic nationalist culture. And it works well because we use IQ testing and military discipline to keep the blacks and browns in order. Yeah, I'm sure it works. Yeah, I have no doubt there. That's just the point. They have order, strong discipline, and they have IQ testing. So you can't have that kind of structure in a free society. The military is quite different from a free society. It's more of a this very tough hierarchy, North Korea type of setting. Forgotten roots. Well, hello there. Cold rooms, cold showers, cold weather. Everything cold is great. Greetings, Susanna. Well, hello, Forgotten Roots. Good to see you around. Well, I can't see you, but it's good that you're around. Good to hear from you. Yeah, it's a bit cold here. It's a cold summer. We have had some warm days, but it's not looking that warm right now. But it's due to the fact that you have to understand that every year, the average temperature of 1 year doesn't really differ from 1 year to the other. And we had a very, very warm winter. And this means that I always know that if we have a warm winter, it will lead to a cold summer, because on the level of 1 year, the temperature basically evens out. So we're going to have a cold summer, and that's fine. It's a little bit too cold for my liking, but then again, it's still fine. I don't like, let's say, if it's 25 plus, I'm suffering. It could be 23, 24, I'm suffering. Christo Kirov, civic nationalism would work if we kicked out 3/4 of the blacks and browns for being too stupid or incapable of assimilating our values. Yeah. Well, the thing, to my understanding, that is somewhat right. You're overstating the need to kick people out. You wouldn't have to throw 3/4 of blacks and browns if you went that way. It would be more like 1/4 or 1/3 or even half, but not 3/4, 3/4. And another thing is that there are people's cultures who are completely incapable of assimilating, like Islam. I just read an article from 2009 or 2010 today, a long article. It was from Denmark, and it was written by a psychologist who had worked with these Muslim prisoners and been trying to get their heads in order. And he had worked with hundreds of Muslim convicts and other foreign convicts, and he said that basically the problem is Islam, that these Muslims are unwilling to integrate anywhere, and they have been studying this, and so it's 10 to 14% of Muslims want to assimilate into the host culture or Western culture or Northern or European culture. It's only 10 to 14%. All the rest of them want to segregate. So this Islamic culture is a great problem. Helias Antonius, I don't care about assimilation. I don't want non-whites to assimilate. I'm with you there. I don't want that either. If we have to have different ethnic groups in my country, I would prefer segregation. To me, this Helias Antonius saying assimilation is the worst, and I agree with him. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. And there is never, the assimilation is kind of it's not even true. There will never be this assimilation as such, that these people would take the values of the host country. They will change the values of the ethnic makeup of the host country anyway, even if they kind of assimilate. So I'm not up for assimilation at all. I don't like it. I think it's only a vehicle for replacing our ethnic group and destruction of our culture and destruction of our religions and spirituality and all of these things. I'm not for assimilation at all. I think it's shit. Zion, I want to say I think it's nice you re-uploaded a few of Vari's videos. Hope you keep doing it. Zion, I'm pissed off at Vari. I haven't been watching his videos anymore. If I would take his advice, I would just be in the kitchen and not taking part in politics. So I don't think you will be seeing Vari's videos on my channel anymore. It was his choice. I'm not going to help a person who has those views. That Vari would basically want me off the internet, so why would I help him? I have no reason to support people who don't want me to have free speech. Indeed, the situation is in America is a bit more difficult than in Europe, since the percentage of non-whites is far higher. That's true, but there's also, on the other hand, in Europe, the quality of non-whites is a lot lower than the United States. Hitler had more in mind than we are allowed to know about, because the mainstream media hides the truth from us all. Well, you have to understand that the Axis lost the Second World War, and everything you're reading about the Second World War is written by the victors. Those who won the war, they will write the history. And of course, it's full of lies. It's a pack of lies. See, it's not civic nationalism anymore if you start discriminating by skin color at all. At that point, it becomes ethno-nationalism. True. And I wouldn't ever use the term skin color myself because that's not important. The differences between these ethnic groups, of those differences, the skin color is the least important, and it shouldn't be referred in any discussions because that's not the problem. The problem is how these people act. And of course that you wouldn't want to have race mixing just because it's an evil by itself. Historically, the United States opened its doors to mass European immigration, at least in part because we didn't want to become a non-white or Hispanic nation. Well, that's a sad note, isn't it? Dominus, remove falafel. The US experience with Muslims is very different from the European one, at least in part because our Muslims tend to be highly educated people. We do not want to live in Muslim majority nations. Nobody wants to do that. It's horrible for even those Muslims living in them. I don't know what's worse, Islam or AFA and so-called anti-racists. Would Islam or Antifa be worse? There are different kinds of evil. The very different types of evil. There are way more Muslims in Europe, and they're Middle Eastern and North African mostly. Yes, they are. It's a very bad thing. The Muslims who come to Europe now are the same Muslims that destroyed their nations in the 60s to 80s. That's true. What is in your opinion the roots of the problem in the European migrant crisis? The root. Well, when you're putting it like that, you're basically putting forth that there is a single root problem for this crisis. And I don't think that there is only one root to this crisis. There are many reasons. I will say some reasons that I see that are parts of this problem. One of the parts of this problem is that there is cultural Marxism which has taken over the Western countries after the Second World War. The Eastern Europe was protected from this by them being under the actual real Marxist communist regimes, and they know what's what. They can't be fooled so easily. And that's one of the reasons. The other reason is the fact that the Axis lost the Second World War is one of the causes for sure. Because they had this a lot more racial view of the world, the Axis countries, and they would have never allowed this to happen because they would have known that it's not a thing to do to import all of these foreign ethnic groups into your countries. Another reason is Holocaust. After the Holocaust, the Jewish elites and Jewish activists have been furiously pushing for migration in the Western countries. This is not anti-Semitism even to say this because this is a documented fact. For example, the United States USA 1965 law, which allowed for the current migration, was lobbied and pushed by the Jewry. The same is true for the Swedish situation, that the laws that caused the current situation in Sweden were pushed in the 60s by Jewish activists and Jewish lobbyists. And even today we have George Soros, who is almost single-handedly created the migrant crisis with his funding to these non-governmental organizations. They're basically helping them in every way, even to the point of giving them materials and net applications and net pages and papers telling what they should say to the officials in Europe that they will get this refugee status. And George Soros is this typical activist billionaire Jew. That's one of the reasons. There are other reasons. There's basically the destruction of the faith in the European traditions. This is the corrosion of Marxist, this cultural Marxist doctrine, and all of this guilt and shame about colonialism and all of this bullshit. And it's related to the Christian culture of shame. So Europeans can be very much affected by this shaming. It's weaponized shame from Christianity. That is one of the reasons why we are here where we are now. To name a few reasons. I'm sure there are more. I recommend everybody to check out the channel Apollonian Slumber. Okay, listen there. Fellow mortals. There's a channel to check out that's called Apollonian Slumber. Uirala is about post-Ice Age expansion of Finnish boat people around the Atlantic and Orkney Islands in skin boats, some who may likely have become part of the Amerindian population. Okay, that's interesting. I'll tell you a story about the Finns and the American Indians. In the first Indian wars, where these Western settlers were warring against the native Indians, the only houses that the Indians did not burn down were the houses of Finns. And this is because the Native Americans and the Finns were kind of people of the forests, and they got along better than most other peoples. Susanna, when it comes to the coldness or heat waves, let's see what he's saying. Susanna, when it comes from Forgotten Roots, when it comes to coldness or heat waves, I think that Europeans cannot live too far from their homeland unless they are ruling classes in non-European countries. Maybe. It's so hard to say these days because there is all of these. You always have heating and you always have air conditioning and all of this stuff, so it's kind of, you can live almost anywhere these days. It's just you're using these technological devices to make it tolerable. Not that I would want to live anywhere else. I wouldn't want to leave Finland anyway. If everything goes to shit, I might move to Estonia or somewhere else in the Eastern Europe. I hope we don't get there. Helga is saying, Forgotten Roots, exactly. Look at what happened to the whites in South Africa. Well, you do have them dindus in South Africa, so it's not only the weather. White European, I live in Romania, I can't be outside before 4 or 5 a.m. I get sunburnt, I can't get tanned. I'm rather talking about classical antiquity. Now even niggers can live in Finland. Now, well, that's true, they can, and that's the problem. Whites in South Africa are still today in real danger, says Jan-Erik Johansson. They are in great danger. As we all know, there's a white genocide being going on in South Africa, and thousands of whites are being killed in South Africa every year. even still, and there's a lot of racial hatred. So who knows? I don't know if the whites in South Africa can stay there for much longer. It's a real possibility that they just have to abandon ship. Elias Antonius, I'm referring to the fact that Europeans should be ruling class in non-European countries in order to survive. Oh, yeah, that's most likely the case. I don't know, maybe you could live in some Japan or China or so, but for Africa for sure, they would basically kill you sooner or later anyway. Not all Europeans are white. Most of them are yellowish or pink, says Leroy Pistache. Well, that's splitting hair, I think. Not all you know. I think it's dangerous to be wealthy minority in a country inhabited by alien people, especially in Africa. Uh, if you're not convinced by the argument that it's dangerous to be a wealthy minority in a country, you can just ask the Jews. I'm sure they will confirm your conclusion. Helias is saying race isn't skin deep. No, you should. That's one of the fallacies the left is using when they talk about skin color. Who cares about skin color? Skin color doesn't make anyone chimp out. It's something else related to both their genetics and their culture. You can't separate genetics and culture. That's a rubbish idea. That's a civic nationalist idea and it doesn't work. It has never worked. Maybe 10 people can assimilate into 10 or not 10, but let's say there's a minority of people that can assimilate into different cultures, but as a mass of people, I don't believe that's at all. Glorious crusader and soldier of Christian Europe. Christianity is the only way we can save Europe. I don't really buy that. I don't even like Christianity at all. Christianity is part of the problem. It's this, as I've been saying, that we have this problem with this shaming of Europeans for all kinds of shit that we were not responsible, even like colonialism and slaves and I don't know, all kinds of problems that aren't our problem, shit that we're not responsible for. We're being shamed for that, and it's having an effect, and that's because of Christianity. It's the Christian shaming culture, weaponized shaming. Thomas is saying, let me tell you how to fix the minority problem. Transferring into a right-wing society where handouts are rare and small. Blacks and Arabs are willing to move out by themselves then. That's true. Jason is saying pagan revival. And Forgotten is saying Frankish and Norman crusaders in the Holy Land had to have Arabic, Turkish, or Armenian servants who took care of their houses and households. Horses and households. That's one example. If Christianity will work, the situation would be different for example Gratia in Iraq. Yeah. What did pagans did great expect Rome? What? What did pagans did great expect Romans and Greeks? Probably asking what great things did pagans do apart from Romans and Greeks, from the Roman and Greek empires? What does that have to do with anything? I'm not interested in an empire, and I'm interested in being left alone with my own people. Jack 44. The biggest problem with Christianity is its focus on the next world. It's always focused on the escape hatch of the new world, not the here and now. The biggest problem I find with Christianity is that it's basically a Christian will say that an African Christian is his brother or sister, but an ethnic person of its own group is some kind of heathen and not his brother or sister. That's the greatest problem with Christianity, is that it is against ethno-nationalism. Crusader, what did Christian ever do for Europe except what? Except lowering overall hygiene, causing internal religious wars, and persecuting pagan Europeans to burn them at the stake. The Christian, Patrick is saying, the Christian eschatology is appealing to me, but I prefer European paganism. Not taking the mark is one example I like. Glorious Crusader, try to behave. You're not being productive here. You're just picking a fight, and it's not useful. Leroy, pagans were in touch with the spirits of the forest, the sounds of morning birds. Yeah. The backlash in Britain is here, says Tom Bowie. The leftists are panicking, but watch the UK over the next few months. Yeah, I think that there's a great problem in UK due to that the nationalists are so well under the thumb of the political system that the political system makes it impossible to get anyone with any sense voted in. It's just the Tories and Labour, and they're both like totally globalist, and they don't give a fuck what people think. So it's like France, that it's extremely hard to get new parties in. Do tell me if you can still see this stream, because my own laptop just disconnected. I can't see any comments, so let's see. Now I can. Oh, I just lost the laptop. I'm trying to read. Stream looks good for me, works fine, she would not know, still working. Okay, the stream is working, but I lost my laptop and it's almost impossible to follow the comments here. We're trying to have proper discussion here, so if we're just here to troll, as a Crusader, you can kindly fuck off. I agree there. Let's just keep it civil. Keep it nice. You can fight elsewhere. You have there's the full internet Flame Wars, so you can go there and bash us pagans over there. So I will try to switch the network. The problem I have here is that I have two different internet. I have actually three different internet connections, and one of them is the old school ADSL cable, but it's in the house, and it has this wireless LAN, and I can barely get it to this side building. It's almost doesn't work here. And I also have this 3G, 4G different with a SIM card, this wireless LAN box, but it's a GSM 3G, 4G based thing. And it's the same problem that it's in the house, and it doesn't really It barely works here. And the third connection I have is on this phone, but I can't use it when I'm live streaming from it. So I'm here in the house, in the side building, and I'm having problems with the connection. So it's hard for me to see what you're typing because they go so quickly from the screen of this phone. But keep on commenting. I will try to stay there with you. Let's see if I can get this connection fixed. But yeah, this Christianity versus paganism is one of these, and versus atheism is one of these. Is the younger generation of Finland red pilled or communist or somewhere in between? That's a very, very hard question to answer. Always, in all countries, in all peoples, the young people are more progressive than the older folk. And the people start getting a lot more conservative around the age of 40. You can see this from the studies and statistics and so on. And so you would expect people to be on the left before they're 40, and from 40 onwards you would expect them to be on the right. Or putting it in another way is that you would expect the young people up to 40 to be on the liberal side and people from 40 onwards to be on the conservative side. On average. What's the situation in Finland? Some young people are red-pilled. The others are communist. Finland is doing much better than Germany, I assure you of that, says Imerajat Zeelenhauch. Well, Germany is one. Somebody asked about the reasons why we're having this, the root causes of this migration crisis. One of the root causes is Germans, because they have so much power in the European Union, and they have this guilt over gassing the Jews, and they're culturally decimated. The Germans have been culturally destroyed. So the German culture, what's left of German culture is just, it's a suicide pact. They just feel guilty for everything, and they think that they should basically kill themselves and give their lands to Arabs and Negroes. And they have so much power in the European Union that they are basically trying to overrun all the other European countries with these useless fucking Hindus and Arabs and Muslim bombers. So I'm extremely pissed off at the Germans at this point. You do realize, I'm just going to put this out there, that my grandmother's brother volunteered for the Waffen SS and fought with the Germans in the Eastern Front against Russia. And coming from this background, I don't take kindly to what the fucking Germans are doing now. It's a horrible thing that they're doing. It's ungodly. And I'm angry at the Germans. I'm very angry at the Germans. There's even the complication that Germany isn't even properly independent. As I've said before, it's still under the thumb of the Americans, the United States, and as we all know, the United States of America is basically very much controlled by the Zionist movement. The American Jews are basically funding 50 to 60% of both the Republican and the Democratic parties. The most strongest lobby is AIPAC, which is the Israel lobby in the United States. So those people are basically in control of the United States, who are in control of Germany up to a point. Germany doesn't even have a proper army. It's not an independent country, but it still rules the European Union. So things are really fucked here, extremely fucked. You could, if I would say something extremely horrible here, I would say that the Jews that the Germans expelled during the Second World War and so on, they were taken by the United States and the America. And what happened in the United States is that these Jews that were expelled from Germany took over the United States. That's an ugly thing to say, isn't it? But could it be true? I leave that to you. Helias Antonius saying the few Germans that are unapologetically proud about the true Germany get raided by the police. Well, Helias, are you German? The EU is a dog on a leash held by Germany, which is a dog on the leash held by another dog held to a leash by the Israel lobby. Yes, exactly. You got it exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're not German. Yeah. Well, I actually like. I haven't had money for a long time, but when I have had more money, I have traveled Germany quite a bit, and I've been to most of these places, all the Eagles nests and Zeppelinfeld, the Kongresshalle, Valhalla, and the Black Forest, Schwarzwald, and so on and so on. So basically, what I've been doing in Germany, and also the castles, I've been in many of them too. So I've been just looking, when I've been on a vacation to Germany, I've been just looking at the former glory of the Germans, which is completely gone now. It seems like immigration problems aren't helping anyone either. Says Joe the Delight. Yeah, well, they aren't, are they? Europe is pretty much fucked at this point. There will be, there could be a civil war in some of the European states. There is a low-level civil war in at least France and I think UK. They're bordering on having this Lebanonization type of situation, a very very low scale civil war going on all the time. Probably in some way true of Sweden as well, with several dozens of no-go zones and so on. And the chat just got disconnected again. Maybe I said something good about the Germans and that was a mistake. Leroy Pistache, did you know that only 30% of white households in America during slavery had Negroes in their homes? In contrast, Jews had a 75%. No one blames the Jews for slavery. Mad. They even owned the boats. I know, yeah, of course I know. Yeah, yeah. Jews were very greatly overrepresented in the slave trade, as funding it, as shipping the slaves and owning the ships. In South America, even these slave markets, they were closed due to the fact that there were Jewish holidays. So on Jewish holidays, they didn't sell slaves because they were so heavily, these slavers were so heavily Jewish. And the Jewish household did have a lot more slaves than any other households. I know. Imeriath Zelenhauch. Ha! You don't even need the police to take care of you. Dare to start an uncomfortable topic here. You can't believe how well the indoctrination worked here. I suppose I can believe that. It's different in Finland because we weren't crushed by this. We haven't been mentally decimated in the same way as the Germans. But there's still, even Finns do have these problems up to a point. And Susanna, you should ban Spiderbot. Oh. Okay. Let's do that. Done. What was this? Gerdina was saying something. No, it was Pernilla. Pernilla Gustafsson. Turning men into feminized, weak, low testosterone men and women into raving loonies, including cancers it causes. It's the biggest crop in the world and everything in the kitchen. We're overdosing on it. Well, yeah, well, there's stuff that you shouldn't eat, I'm sure. Soy or something. I don't eat that stuff. I eat traditional foods, and of course I eat too much hamburgers, and that's why I'm overweight. What was and are the interests of Jews in southern Africa? Good question. You should ask this guy who is Jan. If you want to know something about South Africa, you should probably look at Tara McCarthy and South Africa on YouTube. I don't think that this Jan talks about the Jews in that show, but you will find his name from that show and you can then look for more. He has talked about the Jews in South Africa, but I just can't remember that much. Kristokovich answering Gerda Rytina. Iliana Mercer might have written about this. She's an alt-right Jewess from South Africa. Was it Jan Lebrecht? Great channel, says Jason Agterbos. Well, there are always trolls, so fuck them. Europe is not a country, Drew. No, it isn't, says Loki Odinson. Funny name. Oh, did I, Jason? Where are you from? Let's see, I will give someone the moderation power so they can throw out these idiots. Let's give Gerda. Gerda is now a moderator and can throw people out. Oh, father side is Dutch. Yeah, okay. Agder boss. Yeah. Isn't Loki from Eric the Viking? Loki, isn't that the god? The northern god Loki, the trickster. Do you have a Patreon, Finnish Nationalist? No, I don't. I never ever. I don't know. I just didn't do this for the money. I was thinking that I would get like, €1.50 every 3 months, so it wasn't worth the trouble. And I don't even have a credit card that would work outside of Finland. So I would I would need to get one if I had this Patreon thing. And I don't even know how it works. Do you think I should start a Patreon? How does Patreon even work? I'm sure that they will probably shut me down anyway. Don't all of the nationalists have these problems with these Patreons and all of these that they will just be, oy vey, shut it down? Like Christopher Cantwell, for example, I think he's been shut down in every possible way. He can't get his streams out and he can't get monetized and so on and so on. Somebody's trolling that, have you ever met Vari Gandalf in real life? Actually, Gandalf, there is this some kind of a demigod or god in the Finnish pantheon who is called Väinämöinen. And this Väinämöinen is an old, long-bearded, basically a wizard or half mage, half some kind of warrior mage, half god maybe. And to my understanding, Gandalf has been copied from this person from the Finnish mythological sources, Kalevala and so on. So Gandalf is basically Finnish. Saca cabrón, en español que no me entero. Me gusta tu grasa. I can read Spanish still. I'm just not sure what it means. PayPal will exclude you, yeah, for sure. If enough people ask, nothing wrong with Patreon PayPal. Totoro. Isn't Totoro, it's that funny creature in this, anime or whatever you call those Japanese funny drawn movie, basically cartoons. Me gusta el pene, it probably means that I like dick. Oh dear God, with ya. Europe is Merkelstan. Yes, it is. We can, it can't go on forever. She must die one day. In reference to Angela Merkel. She can't live forever. PayPal is throwing out a lot of people according to some channels. I think that's probably true. I think I read his Elvish languages were based on Finnish, says Karl Wolfram. And Jason goes, Hail Väinämöinen. Yeah. Yes. Some of these languages that... what was this guy's name? Tolkien. Yeah, a lot of his stuff was based on... actually on the Icelandic sagas. And that's one thing to realize. Without the Viking sagas from Iceland, there would be no Lord of the Rings and what have you. But there's also stuff from the Finnish mythology, and the language is one thing. He actually liked the Finnish language very much because it's so different. Yeah. Of course, I have argued in one of my videos that actually Europeans are elves compared to some other groups of orcs. You know what's even more funny? I'm not even a full-blooded European. Although I'm kind of successful outcome of their wished project, the European inside of me is dominant. You're being dominated by your inner European. Yeah. It's the dominant blood of Europeans that's doing that. Somebody gets rid of liquid, it's hard. Go on. We need to give more. Let's give this white European also the moderator status. And let's go for Loki. There, maybe that helps a bit. What do you think about Nordicist? I don't know what is a Nordicist, but it sounds good. I'm afraid it's a bedtime for me. Vastarinta, is Nordicist vastarinta, is that what you're saying? Good night, Gerda. Good night. Sleep tight, don't let the bedbugs bite. Nordicist vastarintaliike, which is the Nordic Resistance Movement, NRM. Well, I don't know what to think about them. I agree with some of their stuff, and I don't agree with some of their stuff. I think there are a lot of very good people in the movement, but they have also been having this learning process, so they have made some mistakes that have hurt their brand. I don't know if I'm going to say that this movement with that name will be a great thing one day, I don't know. But at least I'm sure these people who are in these movements are part of the solution. To answer the question about the Nordic resistance movement. Christokov, I have to go. Great randomly catching your channel, long-term viewer. It was great interacting with you. It was good of you to come. So, are we done here already? It's been 1 hour. I have this two-hour rule that I will stop it after 2 hours no matter what. So is there anything people would want to talk about, or any news or stuff like that? Yeah, this one guy is saying that he is a mongrel. Well, you know, the thing is that I will tell you something about dogs. I think the old saying by the Finnish Sami people up north is that you can actually basically clean up a race in 4 generations by bringing it back to the one dog from the other. So you can basically actually that's the thing that people don't realize, that if you have small minorities, you can just actually breed them out by mixing with them, because their genes will be completely lost from the peoples if you have a small minority and you mix with them. But the great majority race mixes with them. What will happen is that their genes will basically be thrown out of the gene pool almost completely, or effectively completely. For example, in Finland we have these Finnish Swedes who have this Swedish culture, and they were basically descended from these ruling class Swedes in Finland. But these ruling class Swedes in Finland have been so heavily race mixed with Finns and Finnic people that these people are now genetically indistinguishable from Finns. So all of their Swedish genes have basically been eradicated throughout the centuries. So this is for the Imeriath Seelenhauch, that if you get a German spouse and that your children get German spouses and so on, the Arab genetics will be completely gone in like 4 generations or so. What do you think about Jehovah's Witnesses? They always find me wherever I move. I don't know. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they come to your door and they bother you. And how I deal with these people is that if you say something absolutely horrible to them, they will not come back to you for many years. So you should go like basically to, if you have Jehovah's Witnesses on your door, you should just basically say that gas the Christ and gas the brown Kaukinen stick, and they will probably not bother you at least for 5 years. So that's one way to deal with the issue. Yeah, Joey also left. Carl Wolfram says stop pork mixing. Yeah, as a general rule, you should abide by that. Kate Mail is saying, I like your house. This is basically this is a side building. It's been built in, let's say, 1950s maybe, by Finnish Karelians who lost their lands in the Second World War, and Russians took their lands. They were given these small plots of land on the mainland Finland, and they came here 4,100 refugees basically. And this is one of the houses that they built. I'm also partly descended from those people. Where do you think is the right place for Euro-Americans? Is it best to try to hold our place in North America, or is it helpful to try to go back to Europe? That's an interesting question. This is asked by Kurgan White. Let's see now. One of the things that I'm not sure is a good thing is that if the United States will become majority non-white, what will happen? Who will control their nuclear arsenal and their army? Because there is this horror scenario that the United States will become non-white and they will become hostile towards Europe because Europe is white, and the Americans have like a motherload of nukes and the biggest military in the whole world. So I don't know, should Euro-Americans come back to Europe? I don't know. If you do come back to Europe, you should bring the nukes with you. That's one answer. But of course, if it gets intolerable there, you have to do what's right, so you have to come back. It's just a bit of a problem in the sense that Europe is the most has the highest density of people in the world to begin with. So if we have like 200 million Americans coming here, I don't know where they're going to fit. I suppose we could somehow accommodate it. But there is this problem that the land area of Europe isn't that big. Damn, there are a lot of trolls here today. How many people have you banned already? Yeah, well, you know, we are the hated people, aren't we? The trolls hate nationalists. And they hate, what they especially hate is nationalists who can argue their points and who are on a good mood and so on and so on. So I'm what they hate the most. I'm a happy nationalist. Helias Antonius. I think the Americans should dismantle the nuclear arsenal if the blacks become a majority, or bring them to Europe like Susanna said. I'd rather live with 4 Europeans in a tent than with 4 Muslims, let them come back. Yeah, I agree with that. I couldn't say no if the American whites were coming back to Europe. Well, we would have to take them back. That's what I think. Yeah, the white Europeans who live in the States, yeah. And it's not really correct to say that blacks become a majority in United States, because it won't be blacks. Not at least on the short or medium term. It will be the South and Middle American mestizos and Indians and so on. Carl Wolfram is also saying that the American US military would fall into disrepair if the whites left it, and the infrastructure would also fall into disrepair in the United States. That's likely. As we have seen that the Middle and South Americans aren't that big on infrastructure or military or order or rule of law or anything. Hard for Euro-Americans to immigrate to Europe. I wish I've seen that message. Maybe I should reload this chat here. And hard for Europeans to immigrate to America. I wonder if there is a reason for that. There are cultural differences. There are cultural differences. Europeans are a lot more, I would say, authoritarian and more basically socialist than the Americans. I've been in Egypt and been around the Muslim community. I tell you why they're so unable and impotent beings. I missed a part of that. Why do you think they always have "if God wills" on their lips in Arabic? Because they have this external locus of control. The Arabs believe that they can't affect things themselves, like the Europeans have an internal locus of control, which means that Europeans blame themselves for all the things that go wrong in their lives. And for this reason, they will try to try to get their shit together. And in Muslim culture, there is an external locus of control, and they don't see that they should try to do anything themselves to fix the situation. They just blame everybody else, and the imperialists and the Americans and Christians, and there are all kinds of excuses why things are bad for them, and they're not themselves helping their situation at all. It's vice versa. I have theory that the Romans, by killing the Celts, they have crippled the best version of history of Europe. In this dimension, we have the worst possible. That's an interesting point to make. Hi YouTube. This is going to be an English hangout, so it's going to be in English. You can watch the Finnish hangout. It's like 1 hour and 37 minutes, so you can watch that. It's on my channel, it's below there. So go there if you want Finnish. I'm not sure about the Romans they caused a lot of destruction, that is for sure. But they were also basically destroyed by these barbarians. So it's not so simple. But I'm not a great fan of the Roman Empire at all. I don't like empires generally. The Vikings wrote in the sagas that they feared the Finnish shamans for the storms they could make with their voices. Badass. Yeah. Yes. Finns have had their good days and bad days in the history. We actually, before this whole business about Finland, there were different Finnish tribes, like Karelians and Tavashians and Finns proper, and other tribes as well in the north. I'm basically half Tavashian, half Karelian, so I'm a Finnish mutt. Or mongrel or what have you. But there used to be all kinds of wars between, back in the day, let's say in the beginning of the first millennium, no, beginning of the, let's say from the year 1000 onwards, or so on. From 1000 to 100 and 250 year. So around that time, the Finnic tribes would war the Swedes in the west, and sometimes one another, and sometimes the Novgorod, which are the current day Russians, in the east. And there would be all kinds of alliances and treachery and all of this stuff. I think that Finns did burn down some Swedish cities or towns during that era. And there was some situation where some of these Finnish tribes agreed to fight against the Novgorod with the Swedes, only in order to get the Swedes on the lands of the Novgorod, and then they killed all the Swedes there and just left, and so on. There was all of this kind of unbelievable shit going on back then. But the Vikings really never bothered us that much, because we had this system of lighting bonfires. So we had all of these basically bonfires set up on the coastal line, and if it was night and the Vikings were coming, they would light up this bonfire, and would be the next guards on the next bonfire would see that fire, and they would light up their bonfire, and it would go like this along the coastline, the fires. So people would run inland, and the Vikings would have nothing to take. All the people would be gone with their valuables. And if it was daytime, the same system would work so that you could see the smoke from these bonfires. So there was an alarm system that the Finns used against the Vikings. So the Vikings didn't really get anything done in Finland. We just always fled when they came and had our valuables buried, and some of them taken with us, and then we just fucked off. So many trolls. Yeah. And that's one part of the Finnish history, are these bonfires. They're actually called Vainovalkeat. I don't know how to translate that into English, really. Like persecution bonfires, basically. But then in 1250 or 1251, the Swedish Earl Birger won a decisive battle against the Tavashians, and then we were under the Swedish rule for 600 years. I have never forgiven the Swedes for that. I hold a grudge. Used to be saying that you're going quite far back in history, but yeah, I suppose I am. Here, Forgotten Roots, awesome content, pal. Yeah, Forgotten Roots is nice. Oh, you should check out his channel, Forgotten Roots. No, I can't, yeah. So, is there anything you would like to talk about still? Or are we closing the end of this hangout? What's the best Finnish news agency? That's an odd question. None. They're all pushing globalist news. There are some resistance newspapers, but they write in Finnish, so I'm not sure it would help. But yeah, I will just type them here for a couple of... There's a couple of examples. MV-lehti, Kansalainen and nykysuomi.com. What do you think about Donald Trump? What do I think about the God Emperor? I think he's great. Of course he's not perfect, but he's still great. And he's basically one of the best types of fun we have had in world politics for a long time, because the globalists hate him so much that it makes all the news and all the political topics so much fun. I think he's great entertainment, the God Emperor. And he also just got pushed this Muslim ban through. So we just hope that he will build that wall, as Rennie says. Build that wall. I wish I could tell him that. To build that wall. The Finnish side of Nordfront is okay at least. Good. What do you think about Kim Jong-un? I don't think about those people. He's cocky. It says about Trump, but that's a good thing. I enjoy it. It's good stuff. It's like Kid Rock, extremely cocky. So that's kind of entertaining. Because nowadays it's so looked down upon if somebody is cocky. So I enjoy somebody actually being cocky. It's fun. What do you think about Russia and the Baltic states? You can find a video on my channel that is more than 30 minutes long. It's called On the Russian Question. And you pretty much will get my point of view on the Russian question on that video. It's too long to go into, but to put it very simply is that the Russians have attacked Finland. They have crossed our border with weapons on their hand 4 times. So Finns will never ever really trust the Russians. And this is in relation to Russia, the institution. There is some hatred of the Russian people as well, but it's more just a distrust of the Russian state and the Soviet Union state. What do I think about Savitri Devi? I don't know who that is. Big wall, says Leroy. Yes, let's build a big wall. And drain the swamp, yes. What do you think about he is doing with the Mexicans? Well, Mexicans belong in Mexico is my basic starting point. I don't know why they are in the United States. What do I think about the Dudesons? Oh, I haven't seen much about them for years. They are their own kind of ass clowns. What is your view of Alex Jones? Alex Jones is he's useful. He's an anti-globalist after all. So he gets people part of the way. And he has big audiences and he will get a lot of people. He's not red pilling anyone really, but he's maybe some rose pills there from Alex Jones. He's getting people part of the way. Maybe this Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones get people halfway, and then there will be some people like Stefan Molyneux and Ramsey Paul who get them a little further and so on. What do you think about the Balkan people? Are they part of all Europeans, or are they more related to the people that invaded Europe? It's a white European asked this. I don't know, honestly, that well. But there's certainly both are true up to a point, but I don't know what's the distribution there. That's how, but that's true on all borders of the European area, that those countries that are bordering some other peoples, there will be some admixture. Used to be asking me that, do you know that there are modern weapons caches in Finland which would be taken to use if there was a civil war? I would expect that to be the case, yes. Balkan people belong to Europe, well, says Mark Ebach. Yeah, I reckon they do. Should Baltic states and Finland work together more, like make their own union? In principle, yes, but it's hard in the practical terms because Finland is mm, the Balkan, these Baltic states. They're coming after Finland, and I hope they catch up at some point. I think Northern Europeans, mostly invader hunter-gatherer stock, have least Neolithic farmer stock. The Northern Europeans, this is what Carl Wolfram is saying. Yeah, that's probably true. That we North Europeans have more of this hunter-gatherer DNA. I think the most, if you look at the genetics and the DNA, the people who are most closely related to the Proto-Europeans, which means these old ancient Europeans who were here a long time ago, the closest to those peoples are Estonians, Finns, and Latvians. So we probably have more hunter-gatherer DNA. But you can tell from, for example, the jaws of Finns are stronger than other Europeans because we're closer to this hunter-gatherer stock of people. Because when you get farming, it becomes less important to have strong jaws because you don't eat meat like that so much, and all these what have you from the nature. We should all work together, all European peoples. I agree with that, Markebach. But we should probably also work together as separate nationalities. Yeah, we belong to Europe, but we are heavily mixed. For example, in medieval times, we had Slavs, Old Bulgars, Avars, Cumans, Greeks, Romanicized, Thracians, and Dacians, maybe some Germanic tribes. Carl Wolfram survived the Jai made video about that. Oh, he did. I missed that one. Can you remember what video it was? I would like to watch that one. Imeriath Serenhauch. Oh, what I always wanted to ask you, what is your profile picture portraying Lady Finnish? It's a random picture that I took out of the internet. I just liked it. It has this components of nature and these basically pagan horns. The horned hunter. Yeah, the green man. It's something to that towards that, but it's a little bit more feminine than the green man. Yeah, it's some kind of a pagan picture. I don't know. To me, it represents the love of nature and even some type of nature spirituality, and also kind of the old ways of believing paganism. I think Indo-Europeans was in the title. Okay, thank you, Carl Wolfram. Ren is saying, asking if Finland needs nuclear weapons. Yeah, I would like them because then we would be able to stand on our own. Weaponized saunas. Haunt Hunter, fuck. Thanks for the new name for a Diablo character. Google it, the Haunt Hunter. I think Herne. Herne the Haunt Hunter. I think it's one of the names of the Green Man, if I remember correctly. Yes, it looks awesome. I thought it might have been something from the Finnish mythology. It isn't. It's more related to these the British mythology, because it's in relation to Green Man and this Haunt Hunter. Loki has to go. Bye bye. Ha det bra. What is the population of Finland? A little bit over 5 million. We are extremely few. Used to be saying that there are these weapons caches in Finland and the government will decide when they will be taken into use. Here in Latvia, there is a very negative outlook for Western Europe and also, of course, for Russia. Everyone speaks positive for Lithuania, Estonia, and Finland. It's good to hear that Sun 128 this. Happy to hear that. 2 hours. Are we at the 2-hour mark already? No, we only have 92 minutes. Imperial Bean, you are mistaken. Do you think that every European mythology is related to each other? More or less. More or less. They are different, but they have commonalities. And I think, for example, in Finnish mythology, there are some stuff that comes from the Russian side of the border, and there is something that we have cooked up ourselves, and there's stuff that's from the Nordic Swedish side of things, and all of these have some relationships to one another. There is a lot of also nature worship in these pagan systems of belief or faith, and they are necessarily somewhat similar to one another because of that. Also, Indo-Euro framework with some cross-pollination from old Euro mythos. Ari is saying something about a person in Finland who I'm not going to mention here. Could you do a video on the Kalevala? I will consider that. I know a person who has been translating tons of Finnish mythology to English, but I just can't give you the link right away. I will have to ask for it. It's up on some type of Lord of the Rings or Tolkien forum. They also have some kind of a mythology section, and there's tons of stuff that a person I know has translated into English. Well, there's a Finn talking about Tony Halme. He's gone these days now. He's saying that he was a friend. Swedish stream. My Swedish isn't that good. Min svenska är inte bra. Jag kan inte prata svenska så mycket. We have similar work like Kalevala called Whoa. Luck Places. Don't know if it's translated though. A Sweden. It was Swedish stream. Oh, you do? That's interesting. I have to look that stuff up. I will have to take that word if there. Hi S. Cat's rule. Does Finland have its own version of the Arthurian mythology? Camelot, etc. I would say no. Andrew Verna. Do you think the East European states will eventually crumble to the demands of the EU regarding migration quotas? It's a very hard question. The truth is that it's up in the air. We don't know yet. And it's very hard to say, oh, bear's lair, karhun kaataja periaatteessa. If I would have to guess is that the EU will try to push these Eastern / Central European states to give in to these demands in regarding to migration quotas, and they may push extremely hard. But I suspect that these East / Central European countries might not give up. They might not give in. It's a certain possibility that no matter how hard the Western useless cultural Marxists push for these migration quotas, that the Central / East European countries will simply say fuck you. But one of the countries has caved. Slovakia. Rennie says, I think you know everything. And Catchroll says she does. That's... Well, I'm happy that you think that I know things. I try to learn as much as I can. And I've been trying to learn as much as I can for decades, I think. It's just something about me. I'm so curious, I try to figure out what's what. And I've been trying to find out how things are in this world for a long time. So I probably know more than most people, if you want to put it like that. Should we be forming militias in Europe for the inevitable war with Islam? It might become necessary. Have you heard Italy has pulled 13,000 plus savages out of the sea just this past weekend? No, I haven't heard that, but they pull them off the sea because they're expecting them to fuck off from Italy, to go north. If they were all going to stay in Italy, the Italians would probably shoot them in the water. Helias, the Eastern Europeans are in a bad position. On one side they have Merkel and Macron threatening them with sanctions, and on the other side they have Russians acting slightly scary near the borders. Yeah, that's true. That is one of the reasons why Finland is caving completely, is the fear of the Russians. Leroy is saying the war is going to happen inside the army. Well, that can happen also. Cat's rule, 14 different vessels pulled the feral savages out of the water. Let them drown. Well, this is how it's going on now, Cat. But the fact of the matter is that the Italians are only pulling these savages out of the water because they know that the savages will not stay in their country. I think they would handle the situation completely differently if they were staying in Italy. So Kay is saying Merkel will be hung, and I hope he's right. Skaldigard is saying Eastern Europeans need the intermarium. That's some kind of, I suppose it's internal sea. Valley Meriel is the Mediterranean Sea, maybe, I don't know. Imeriath, and they're strongly connected with a foreign religion. Every Eastern European / Balkan European is strongly connected with Christianity. Yeah, I suppose so. Store the 13,000 savages in Merkel's barren womb. Plenty of room in there. It is against the EU and Putin. White European, that's true. Yeah, Merkel is a bloody pestilence on Europe. I think she's also virtue signaling a lot more than you would think. Because I read on the Nigerian news that there are countries like Nigeria that doesn't have any kind of refugee problem situation, that they would, Nigerians come to Europe, that they would have any right to be here. So they're considering removing visas from all of these Nigerians if they don't start taking back their people. And this hurts the Nigerian elites. So there is stuff like this going on in the background, though. These coming officers are mostly childless hags. Yeah. You must murder is the best Russian band. Check them out. Okay, Sir K is saying You Must Murder is a good band. Helias Antonius, the Italians are cocked and ridden with guilt from World War II, like the Germans. The average Italian doesn't give a fuck if 1,000 migrants drowns in the sea. I think that's probably true. The Italians aren't as cocked, I agree with that. They don't. The only reason they are basically, as I said, why they are allowing this migrancy is because these migrants will not stay in Italy. So they're basically just being like, okay, let's pick them up, they will fuck off to Germany, we don't give a shit. It seems funny that Western Europe is willingly taking Arabs, but are very negative against Eastern Europeans coming there for work. Well, yeah. The thing in, well, if I think about the situation in Finland, is that we have a lot of Estonians working here, and the truth of the matter is that is probably pushing the salaries and wages down in Finland, and there will be more unemployed Finns because of that. I would be up in arms because of that if I didn't feel like the Estonians are our brothers and sisters. So even if that is harming the Finns, I'm just not going to be aggressive about that. But the truth of the matter is that Finns suffer from it. And I suppose that's the thing between Eastern and Western Europe these days, or I don't really mind white Europeans anyway, so if they want to come here, we should just make sure that they are not allowed to basically push down the wages too much. That's another question apart from allowing them to come over and work. In southern Italy, the mafia is using blacks for slave labor and nobody cares. That's pretty hilarious to me. Well, yeah. Is far-right politics starting to stagnate / peak? Oh, that's so hard to tell. I don't think so. I think that's what they want you to believe. These European elites are basically trying to hail every election as a victory for the old elites and a loss for the populists or slash nationalists, but that's not true. They're basically saying that they are so happy that they dodged a bullet where Macron got to be the president, and that on the far right nationalist French only got 35% of the votes, or in Austria where they were so happy that they didn't get a far right president, and the president only got like 45% of the votes, and that this Geert Wilders party is only the second biggest in the Netherlands and so on. Carl Wolfram is saying far right politics hasn't even started. Yeah, well, that's the thing. There was somebody saying, it was probably from Douglas Murray, that's every vote for Macron now is a vote for Le Pen in, what was it, 2020 or 20, what year was it? But basically, there you have to understand that the old elites have a lot of power. It's entrenched power. They have all these bureaucracies and all of these connections and all of the money and all of everything, and they are still being defeated here and there, but they have a lot of momentum going for them, and that's why they can basically slow down the nationalist avalanche very much. So I don't think that we have peaked, and I don't think that we are in any kind of a decline. Hellas is saying Geert Wilders is the biggest Zionist in parliament. Yeah, that's one of the problems with the far right in Europe. It's not only Geert. Scarligard is saying these so-called victories against the far right are just Pyrrhic victories for the globalists. They will only radicalize our nationalists. That's true. I agree with your opinion. If the European migration doesn't harm the selected country and its economies less wages, then it's okay. Imeriach Serenhauch. Got to go. Good night, fellow Europeans. Stay white. Take care. We badly need a victory, though. We have had a few victories, I think, but we could use more. I agree. It's not that bad. We got Trump, we got Brexit, we have all of these Central and Eastern European countries standing rather firmly against this migration thing and so on. And we have had some advancements of nationalist parties in many countries, and even in Finland we have this populist party called the Finns. We finally got rid of this populist leader of the party, and now it's a nationalist party. So that was a great victory for Finland. A real victory, one we can all rally behind. I think we will have our victories. Which is the best organization in your opinion? Oh, I can't answer that. There are many organizations have good and bad parts about them. I'm trying to post a link, but it says I can't do that. Well, I'm sorry, it's not my fault that you can't post a link in this YouTube chat. It's a feature of the YouTube chat. Glad to know, Leroy. Put some extra guards, Far right is just getting started. I think we're in a huge beatdown / beatback against all of these left-wing radicals, soul-destroying national destruction by the importation of the feral masses. Yeah, the game is still on. We're still fighting. We're advancing. We win here and there. We sometimes get a few defeats, but the war is on. Here in Latvia, the government is basically doing economical genocide against its own people. Almost 500,000 citizens have migrated in these 26 years, and numbers are only growing up. That's bad. That's horrible. It's getting harder and harder to live here. What are they doing? Why is the economy so bad? What happened there? Was it the euro? Or did Latvia basically go bankrupt? Or what's the deal? Then I don't have a link, but if you want the Italian opinion of Africa summarized in 1 minute video, you should search Italians yell insults at drowning African. Okay, that sounds horrible. When people get beaten down, they tend to get back up stronger. Yeah, that's true in part. Austerity. Yeah, austerity, it's like yeah, I don't know much about Latvian economics. Austerity can go too far, I know that. But it's bad if people move out. And 500,000 is a lot of people in Latvia, which doesn't have a big population. A couple of million of people. Basically, we don't have any production anymore with all the EU regulations. Oh, that's crazy. Do I believe that Putin is Jewish? I doubt it, but I don't know. Are we close to 2 hours? I'm so tired now that I don't want to go on anymore. 7 minutes left. Do you find it almost ridiculous that we Northern Europeans might possibly be replaced by desert/jungle dwellers that would easily be defeated by our winters if our foods weren't vitamin D fortified? Well, yeah. I don't think we will be replaced by these savages. Yeah, Sanit's saying wages are lower than everyday expenses. Yeah, you can't make it then. Aha, the dirty EU is behind Latvia's trouble. Pathetic. Putin doesn't look very Jewish to me. I agree there. I think he's actually at least part Finnish by blood. Yeah. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting too tired to do this, so I think this is the end of the Hangout. Good night, good people. Good nationalist people, good heathens. Fellow mortals, good night. How do I switch this off? Finish.